Well, we've seen a couple more trades at the NHL level. The Vegas Golden Knights have reacquired one of their original draft picks in the expansion draft. And on top of that, the Jets and Panthers have flipped third-string goaltenders. We'll get to both these deals, some of the signings, and waiver updates from over the past couple of hours. We'll get to all that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all your support. We'd never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment down in the comment section below. It really does help out the channel. And we're on the road to 500 subscribers. And also don't forget to stay tuned for tomorrow's live trade deadline video at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. We're going to be doing a live trade deadline video before the trade deadline happens. So definitely don't forget to stay tuned for that. But in today's video, we've got some interesting updates here. We saw 2 more trades, plus we got a couple of smaller signings and an interesting bunch of players being placed on waivers today, so we'll get to all the updates here as we usually do. We'll start with the signings from our past couple of days. Not a whole bunch of interesting and overly significant ones, but we did see a couple of guys. First, 3 goaltenders got contracts earlier today. First one was Connor Murphy in Calgary, undrafted player, been playing over in the ECHL, AHL over the past couple of years. Actually had quite a good season over in the AHL last year in the Calgary Flames AHL affiliates. Flames want a little more goaltending depth. I don't know if this means they're planning on trading Dan Vladar or Devin Cooley, or if they just wanted to get some more goaltending depth in case they run into some injuries. But the Flames have signed Connor Murphy, who's a young goaltender, to a 1-year, 2-way deal with the idea of $175,000 to finish up the rest of this season. So like I say, it's just nothing more than a depth goaltender, so an interesting sign there for Calgary. Another depth goaltender who got signed to a 1-year, 2-way league minimum deal for the rest of the season is Florida Panthers AHLer Evan Cormier. Cormier has been actually signing 1-year deals around the trade deadline the past couple of seasons in both Florida and New Jersey over the past few seasons. He hasn't gone to any NHL action at this point, but has been a consistent AHL/ECHL goaltender, so it's just an added goaltender depth for the Florida Panthers. So interesting note there. The St. Louis Blues have signed Colton Ellis, who's actually their 3rd or 4th string goaltender at this point in time, to a 2-year contract extension with the AV of $775,000. Now Ellis has actually been doing fantastically at the AHL level. It could eventually be the backup for the St. Louis Blues. Like the combined save percentage over the past 2 years for Ellis and the AHL affiliate for St. Louis is .925. That's a fantastic save percentage over in the AHL. So I think Colton Ellis eventually might be able to be the St. Louis Blues backup. So an interesting sign there, as the Blues are going to keep Ellis around for the next 2 years at league minimum. And then 2 other signings we saw from our past little while. One was another depth add, and that was the Boston Bruins, as they have signed depth for Tyler Pitlick. Now Pitlick over the past couple of years has been basically bouncing around trying to find a home. He's been a decent bottom 6 forward throughout his NHL career. This year has spent his entire season at the AHL level, putting up 33 points in 43 games with the Bruins AHL affiliates, but the Bruins have seen enough to give him a 1-year, 2-way deal at league minimum for the rest of this season. So it's just some added forward depth for the Bruins. Don't expect Pitlick to make the NHL roster for the Bruins to finish out the season unless the Bruins make a slew of trades before tomorrow's trade deadline, which is a possibility with guys like Geeky, Marchand, and Brisson being on the trade block right now. So interesting note there, but the Bruins have added some forward depth. And we saw Winnipeg Jets and one of their young players to an ELC, and that center prospect Jacob Julien, who was a 3rd round pick either in last year's draft or this past year's draft, has signed a 3-year ELC with an AAV of $895,000 to begin the start of next year. Been playing over in the OHL over the past couple of years, has actually been doing pretty decent. He's 10 games below point per game right now after having above point per game pace last year in the OHL. So an interesting ELC. I think eventually in 2 or 3 years time, Julien could be a fantastic pickup there for the Jets. So interesting note there, but Julien has signed an ELC in Winnipeg, while Tyler Pitlick in Boston, Connor Murphy in Calgary, and Evan Cormier in Florida have all signed 1-year deals for the remainder of this season with those teams. And Colton Ellis has signed a 2-year extension to remain in St. Louis. So interesting note there. We're going over to the waiver side of things. There was a couple of interesting players being placed on waivers today. Today was the last day for waivers, where teams could claim them off of other teams before tomorrow's deadline. After that, players who are placed on waivers can't play with those teams for the playoffs. So interesting note there, but we do have 5 players who were placed on waivers earlier today. 3 of them were with the signings we mentioned earlier today. That was Cameron Hebig, which we mentioned in our last video with Utah. That was Evan Cormier in Florida, and that was Tyler Pitlick in Boston. All 3 of those guys who just signed contracts today were placed on waivers, and if they do clear tomorrow, which I would expect all 3 of those guys to probably do so, they will wind up being placed into their minor league affiliates. So interesting note there. But Reilly Stillman in Carolina has also been placed on waivers. Decent bomb 6 forward. If they were there's a couple of teams out there who are trading some of their depth on the blue line and could use another solid third pair of defensemen, I could definitely see Stillman wind up being claimed, so we're going to have to wait and see on that. And the Toronto Maple Leafs have priced the biggest name on waivers, and that is Reilly Reaves. Reaves, who's I think in the second or third year of a 3-year deal with the AAV of $1.75 million, is not working out overly well in bottom six for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They really wanted to free up some cap space to go after some players, so they wind up placing him on waivers. If he does clear, they'll be able to bury most of that contract in the minors, so interesting note there. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow during our live trade deadline video if these guys wind up being claimed or not. But Evan Cormier in Florida, Kahkonen and Hebig in Utah, Pitlick in Boston, Reaves in Toronto, and Stillman in Carolina have all been placed on waivers, so we'll have to wait and see if they wind up clearing or not. And lastly, going over to 2 trades we saw from our past couple of hours. Some interesting trades. One was a very minor league deal. The other one was a little bit more important one, so we'll get to both these trades here. First, the New York Rangers have acquired Brisson and the San Jose Sharks 2025 third-round pick from the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for Reilly Smith, with the Rangers retaining 50% of Smith's contract. So an interesting trade here between the Rangers and the Golden Knights. For the Rangers, I think this is a really good pickup there. Brisson with, I think, the 2019 first-round pick for Vegas, which now leaves Vegas only having one player, Trevor Connolly, in their current system, who has been drafted in the first round by Vegas, still with the Golden Knights. So interesting note there. Brisson, I was hoping was not going to get moved. He's a very fantastic young player. He currently split time so far this year between the AHL and NHL, playing mostly in the AHL, but I think he has a very good future as like a solid top 9 forward in a team's organization, and I think this is going to be a really good pickup there for the Rangers. I think eventually, as peak, might be able to be a solid 20-25 goal scorer, maybe a 45 to 50 point player. So a good young pickup there for the Rangers and Brisson. And they also get a 2025 third round pick, which was San Jose's. So that's probably going to be a very high third round pick in this year's draft. So really solid haul here for the Rangers. You know, a lot of Rangers fans were expecting a second round pick, but I think a really high third round pick and a very good young prospect is pretty similar to like a second round pick. So interesting note there. For the Knights, they get one of the players that was on their original team back with them, and that's Reilly Smith. Smith has been bouncing around over the past couple of years, not last offseason, but the offseason prior. He was dealt to Pittsburgh after the Golden Knights had won their cup. Then he was dealt last offseason to the New York Rangers to try and get him a fresh start. He never really worked out overly well with the Rangers this year, and the Rangers are on the brink of a playoff spot by moving off their UFAs. So they wind up dealing Reilly Smith. They retain 50% of his contract, so his actual cap hit will only be just under $2 million, which is still a pretty good pickup there for the Knights. And I think this is going to be a really good pickup there. Reilly Smith, you fit him back maybe with William Karlsson on the third line for Vegas on that forward group. That could be a really good pickup there for the Vegas Golden Knights. So all in all, it's an interesting trade here, but Reilly Smith is heading back to Vegas with only a $1.875 million cap hit, and in exchange, the Rangers get Brisson in the third round pick. Meanwhile, the other trade that we saw was an interesting one, as the Jets and Panthers have swapped third string goaltenders. As the trade as follows: it's a 1-for-1 deal. Kahkonen gets dealt by Winnipeg to Florida for Driedger. Now, this is an interesting pickup there. Both guys are buried in the minors right now. The Jets have Cormier and Hebig. The Panthers have now Vanacek and Bobrovsky. They don't need those guys at the NHL level, so they wind up moving them, swapping them. Kahkonen, I guess, has had a little bit more success in the recent memory, playing last year with the New Jersey Devils, I think, and the San Jose Sharks. Kahkonen is also a little bit younger, but he's also making $200,000 more than Driedger is. So if they run into some injuries, these guys can be easily serviceable backups. So it's just an interesting swap there. I think the Panthers would probably win that deal because Kahkonen is younger and does have a little more experience over the past couple of years than Driedger does, but Driedger is still a really solid third stringer, and I think that's a really good pickup there for the Jets as well. So an interesting swap there, but the Panthers get Kahkonen and the Jets get Driedger. So it's definitely some interesting trades from the past couple of days. I'll love to hear your thoughts on these moves down in the comment section below. Like I said, I think that the Panthers win the Kahkonen deal. I also think that the Rangers win the Smith deal, because even though I do think Smith going back to Vegas is really good, Brisson and a third round pick is a really good haul for the Rangers. So definitely, that's what I think won these deals. I'd love to hear who you guys thought won these deals, and the signings and the waiver updates from the past couple of days. Definitely give your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk for today. Remember to like this video. If you're watching, subscribe below. Thank you for all your support. We know what you thought of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below, discussing all that was discussed in today's video. Also a blog, to news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So check that out. I'll link that down in the description below. And I can't wait to see you guys all for next video. See you guys soon.